Have you ever been near a woman and felt it? Something quietly different, almost imperceptible, like a whisper beneath the surface of her presence. Not in the way she dresses, not in the cadence of her voice, but in the way she inhabits space, the subtle rhythm of her body, the tension that lingers in her movements. Sometimes she seems withdrawn, almost distant, as if parts of her are elsewhere, traveling in a world only she can see. Other times, there's restlessness in the way she shifts, a subtle fidgeting, an unease that belies the composed exterior she presents to the world. Most men, however, never notice these things. They mistake what is visible for what is real, believing attraction is measured in charm, status, or fleeting looks. But the truth is deeper, far deeper, and it lies in the quiet signals her body sends, messages that reveal the absence of something essential: intimacy. True connection, both emotional and physical, leaves a mark, and when it is missing for long stretches of time, it shows in ways most men will never recognize, unless they are willing to truly pay attention. This isn't about judgment, and it isn't about shaming. It's about understanding. When a woman goes without intimacy, her body whispers truths that are subtle, often invisible to the casual observer, but glaring to those who know how to read them. Her posture begins to shift, sometimes subtly hunched, sometimes rigid with an almost imperceptible tension. Her energy changes, flowing differently through her movements, her gestures, her presence in a room. Even her spark, her confidence, her laughter, her emotional availability begins to reflect a quiet emptiness, a longing that is unspoken but deeply felt. High-value men, the ones who see beyond surface-level attraction, understand that these signals are not obstacles or flaws. They are opportunities. Opportunities to connect, to recognize, and to respond in a way that transcends the ordinary, transforming mere interactions into profound human connection. Think back to the last time you sensed something off with a woman, though you couldn't put your finger on it. The subtle difference in energy, the almost imperceptible hesitation before she speaks, the fleeting tension in her movements. That quiet signal is often the first marker of a deeper truth. She has been without intimacy for a long time, and when this absence stretches across weeks, months, or years, it shapes her, not just emotionally, but physically, mentally, and spiritually. It manifests in ways that most men never notice because they are trained to look at what's obvious: the laugh, the smile, the flirtation. But real understanding comes from noticing what lies beneath: the whispers of energy, the body that has carried longing silently for far too long. Observe carefully, and you might notice her fidget more than usual, her laughter that doesn't quite reach her eyes, the way she carries herself with a subtle tightness, almost as if shielding something precious inside. That tightness is not vanity, it is protection. Her body is telling a story of withheld connection, of suppressed desire for touch, for closeness, for a human bond that has been denied. And here lies the hard truth. Energy is contagious. If she is low, restless, or withdrawn, it is not about disliking you, nor is it an invitation to push or manipulate. It is a signal, a subtle request for understanding, for someone who can meet her where she is without judgment, without impatience. High-value men notice this, not because they are just observant, but because they care enough to see beyond the surface, beyond the smiles and the casual conversation. They sense the quiet tension, the hesitation in her movements, the subtle pull of yearning beneath her social grace. Awareness is the gateway to connection. Recognizing these cues allows you to respond not as a man chasing desire, but as a man who understands, who has the patience to meet her emotionally, who can provide the space and presence she has long been denied. These moments are not coincidences. They are invitations, quiet signals that, if read correctly, can transform your interactions from ordinary to extraordinary. Emotional guarding is another layer, often misunderstood by men. Some women keep others at a distance, even when everything appears normal on the surface. They laugh, they engage, they converse. Yet a subtle part of them remains untouched, shielded. This is emotional guarding, a natural response to a lack of intimacy, a protective mechanism developed over time to shield the heart from disappointment, from rejection, from the vulnerability that has been neglected. Imagine pouring water into a cracked cup. Over time, the cup learns to hold less, not because it doesn't want to be filled, but because it must protect itself from spilling, from being broken again. Emotional intimacy works the same way. When her connection has been withheld, her heart learns caution. The tragedy is that most men misread this guard as disinterest or difficulty. They see walls and assume rejection or coldness, when in reality, these walls are silent calls for understanding. Behind them lies a woman who is craving someone who notices, someone who sees the unspoken signals her body and behavior are broadcasting. Her guard is not an obstacle. It is a guide, showing you precisely how to connect without shattering trust. Patience is the key. Any attempt to rush or force closeness only strengthens the walls, but approach her with empathy, observation, and genuine presence, and you can begin to break through slowly, naturally, and profoundly. The signs are subtle. A hesitation before sharing something personal, laughter that avoids direct eye contact, the careful boundaries she places in conversation. These are not barriers. They are messages, teaching you how to move with awareness, how to honor her pace, and how to create a safe space where intimacy can begin to blossom. Recognizing emotional guarding is transformative. It teaches that intimacy isn't measured by speed or conquest, but by depth, by patience, by the courage to connect meaningfully. When you honor these boundaries, when you respect the signals her body and mind give, the walls gradually soften, and the connection that emerges is not superficial. It is profound, rare, and unforgettable. Pay attention, and you will notice her body speaks a language her words cannot fully convey. Subtle shifts in posture, shoulders slightly rounded, movements constrained, the careful tension in her steps. These are the body's quiet declarations of longing, the echoes of unmet needs. They speak of waiting, of yearning, of the desire for connection that goes far beyond casual interaction. And when a man who understands these signs enters her space, he does not see obstacles. He sees invitations, opportunities to meet her at a level most men will never even attempt. Restlessness is another signal. Small fidgets, subtle shifts, the subconscious need for movement. These are not signs of discomfort alone, but manifestations of suppressed energy, a body that has been holding back its natural vitality in the absence of meaningful closeness. Even her social presence reflects it. She may be reserved in crowds, her smiles carrying the faintest hint of hesitation, her laughter warm yet subtly contained. These cues are the language of the body, the story of longing, of waiting for the right connection, the right understanding, the right presence to finally allow her energy to flow freely again. Observing these signs is not about manipulation or exploitation. It is about awareness, empathy, and comprehension. When you tune in, when you notice these whispers of body and energy, you have a chance to approach differently, to act with patience, respect, and care. You become a man who sees beyond the surface, who connects in ways that many never attempt, who interprets the invisible language of need and desire with sensitivity and insight. Awareness, applied thoughtfully, transforms not only your interactions, but your understanding of women, intimacy, and human connection. When a woman has been without intimacy for a long time, the changes are profound, woven into the very fabric of her being. Beyond the subtle shifts in energy, the guarded posture, the fleeting restlessness, there lies a deep, almost invisible yearning, a craving for connection that transcends the casual interactions most men mistake for fulfillment. This craving does not shout. It does not wave its hand to demand attention. It exists quietly in the way she leans into conversations when she feels truly heard, the way her eyes brighten ever so slightly when someone acknowledges her in a way that sees past the surface, and the way she lingers in moments where she feels safe enough to reveal even a fraction of herself without fear. These are moments of profound vulnerability, fleeting glimpses into the emotional landscape that most men never notice because they are distracted by appearances, by words, by what can be superficially measured. High-value men, the ones who have cultivated awareness, learn to recognize these soft signals, these subtle invitations, because they understand that intimacy is not an act, but an energy. A connection that is felt rather than forced, and that flows naturally when the right presence meets the right heart. What most men fail to grasp is that this craving is not about desperation, nor is it an attempt to seek validation or fill a void in a shallow way. It is profoundly human, a need for emotional and physical resonance, for touch and understanding, for a connection that affirms her existence in ways that words alone cannot. When a woman has been without this type of closeness, her heart and body carry a silent script, written in gestures, micro-expressions, fleeting movements, and moments of hesitation, waiting for someone attuned enough to read it. It is here that awareness transforms from mere observation to a powerful tool, a gateway into trust and intimacy. A man who sees the subtle signs of longing, who feels the quiet pull in her energy, who notices the minute cracks in the emotional armor she wears, is not merely engaging with her superficially. He is being invited into her inner world, into the private landscape where her soul has been quietly waiting for understanding, patience, and care. Responding to this is a skill few ever master, but those who do find that it changes everything, not only in how she opens to them, but in how they themselves experience intimacy, empathy, and presence in ways that are transformative, both for the relationship and for their own growth. The key, always, is patience. Nothing of lasting depth can be rushed. When a woman's body and mind carry the weight of denied intimacy, she will not, cannot, allow herself to fully engage without the assurance of safety, respect, and authenticity. High-value men understand this instinctively. They recognize the moments when a lingering glance, a soft touch, or a shared silence is not trivial, but profoundly meaningful. These are invitations to connect, to meet her unspoken need for closeness, to show her through presence and attentiveness that she is seen and valued in ways she may not have experienced for a long time. But this requires discipline of a rare kind, discipline to resist the urge to push, to compel or to demand, discipline to be present fully without expectation, discipline to honor the invisible signals her body sends even when they contradict the surface-level interactions that the untrained eye would see. It is in this quiet mastery, in this patient attunement, that the seeds of profound connection are planted. And over time, these seeds grow into trust, intimacy, and a bond that is deeper, richer, and more rare than anything formed in haste or through superficial attraction alone. Even the most confident, vibrant women carry this hidden truth, a loneliness masked by laughter, independence, and social grace. When intimacy has been absent for long periods, the heart instinctively shields itself, crafting a protective exterior that can appear self-assured, untouchable, and even untethered from need. This mask, however, is fragile in its perfection, carrying beneath it a quiet emptiness, a longing that words often fail to capture. Most men see only the surface, the confident posture, the easy smile, the social elegance, and assume fulfillment, independence, or disinterest. But awareness teaches that these are precisely the layers to look past. In the flicker of her eyes, in a fleeting pause, in a sigh that escapes only when she thinks no one is watching, there is a language of longing. There is a story of unmet desire, of withheld touch, of emotional depth that has gone unacknowledged. High-value men learn to see this not as weakness, but as a map, a guide toward understanding, presence, and connection that cannot be rushed or forced, but must be cultivated with care, consistency, and empathy. The skill of noticing these signs, the subtle cues of body, energy, and emotional resonance, is transformative not only in how men connect with women, but in how they understand themselves. Awareness is active, not passive. It is the willingness to see what most overlook, to interpret the invisible signals, to respond with thoughtfulness, sensitivity, and a kind of emotional intelligence that transcends mere social competence. It is about connecting dots that others never even notice exist, about feeling the rhythms and shifts of her energy as naturally as one might feel the weather or a change in tide. Every subtle adjustment in her posture, every fleeting hesitation, every trace of guardedness is a line in the story she has been quietly writing with her body, and a man attuned to these signals reads it fluently. He does not act with haste or demand. He acts with respect, patience, and an unwavering presence, creating an environment where her guardedness is not a barrier, but a bridge, guiding him toward authentic connection and deep emotional resonance. Awareness, when practiced fully, becomes transformative. It is not merely noticing a smile, a fidget, or a subtle glance. It is interpreting them, understanding their meaning within the larger context of her emotional landscape, and responding in a way that demonstrates presence, care, and genuine insight. It separates men who merely date from men who truly understand. It transforms fleeting interactions into profound encounters. It turns superficial attraction into deep empathy. It teaches that intimacy is not a product of charm or status, but a dialogue of souls, a language expressed through energy, presence, and emotional alignment. Those who master this see a woman not as a puzzle to solve or a conquest to achieve, but as a living, breathing human being whose need for connection is as real, urgent, and deserving of respect as any other human need. The signs of a woman's longing are varied. The subtle energy shifts, the restrained gestures, the quiet craving for closeness, the protective mask she wears to navigate a world that has often failed to understand her. Only a man who has cultivated awareness, who can observe without judgment, interpret without assumption, and respond without expectation, can perceive these signs authentically and act in ways that honor her experience. Awareness turns observation into empathy, empathy into understanding, and understanding into connection that transcends ordinary relationships. It is the difference between fleeting encounters and bonds that touch the heart, between casual dating and the profound experience of being truly known, truly seen, and truly understood. And herein lies the ultimate truth. The reward of awareness is not merely attraction, attention, or desire. It is transformation. When a woman senses a man who sees her unspoken needs, who respects her rhythms, who meets her with patience and care, something rare happens. Trust begins to form. Walls soften, connection deepens, intimacy emerges not as a transaction, but as a living, breathing energy that flows naturally between two people who are fully present, fully attuned, and fully engaged. This is the difference between ordinary relationships, fleeting and superficial, and extraordinary connection, rare and unforgettable. Awareness is the key that unlocks this reality. It allows a man to enter spaces of intimacy that few ever reach, to touch parts of a woman's heart that have long been waiting, and to create bonds that resonate not only in the moment, but across time, leaving a lasting imprint on both lives. For men who choose awareness, the rewards are profound. It is not about conquest or manipulation or shallow gratification. It is about presence, empathy, and the courage to connect deeply. It is about learning the quiet language of energy, the subtle stories told by body and behavior, the unspoken truths that most overlook. It is about recognizing the yearning hidden beneath smiles, the loneliness beneath laughter, and the protective walls built over years of withheld intimacy. High-value men learn to honor these signals, to interpret them with sensitivity, and to respond with patience, care, and authenticity. And in doing so, they do not simply connect. They transform the very experience of connection, creating something rare, beautiful, and profoundly human. In the end, understanding a woman who has been without intimacy for a long time is not a checklist of behaviors or a set of manipulations. It is an art, a practice, a commitment to seeing, feeling, and responding to what most men never notice. It is about awareness as a way of life, as a lens through which relationships are experienced, and as a pathway to a depth of intimacy that transcends fleeting desire and reaches the soul. When you cultivate this awareness, you do not merely interact with women, you enter their world with respect, empathy, and understanding, touching places that have been waiting, sometimes for years, for someone who truly sees, hears, and values them. And it is in this sacred space of recognition, presence, and care that true intimacy, profound trust, and life-changing connection are born, leaving an imprint not just on the woman, but on the man who has learned to see, to feel, and to be fully present.